It's like kind of this. Okay, today I got two people of not extremely, but kind of opposing political views here with me to do some talking. You saw Will yesterday. He's right there. Say hi, Will. We got my friend Bret. He's my roommate. He's well, tell us what you are, Bret. What would you say you are?
I would say I'm an independent, but I'm certainly center-right.
Center-right. All right. So take that in mind. We're going to have them discuss. We have 3 topics. They chose them along with me, and we're going to talk about them for a little bit. We can get off camera, though. All right. First topic. We're going to go with taxes here. I'll just let you guys discuss it. I don't feel like I need to ask any questions. Start it off, Will. I'm just going to tell us how you feel. You think that progressive taxes are the right way to go?
Progressive taxes.
How do you feel about the current highest tax bracket?
The current highest tax bracket is not being taxed enough.
Okay. And how much do you think they should be taxed?
By how much? I don't know, but more.
What would you agree? So the Buffett bill, as it was named, 30% taxes on the highest tax bracket. Yes.
Yeah. Is that more?
That's more. Yes.
Whatever's more is good.
Yeah, it's more.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way? Why do you feel they should be taxed more in general? Is what I'm saying.
Because the wealth disparity right now between like the socioeconomic classes is worse than it was in the 1920s during like the robber baron decade. So.
All right, Bret, response?
I, on the other hand, firmly support lower taxes for the wealthy as well.
Okay.
I think they're entitled to their wealth. They've earned it. They can be as stingy as they want because A, it's their money, and B, it's their livelihood. However, I also take the stance that perhaps instead of raising taxes on all income earners, instead we should maybe cut some government programs that are rather useless in this day and age.
Would you agree to any tax increase if it was coupled with government decrease in spending?
Sure. Depends.
To an extent, you would be okay to compromise with a slight increase in taxes if it was coupled with decreased spending to an extent.
I'm not Grover Norquist. I don't pretend to be.
Okay.
I'm not the type of person who thinks we should never raise taxes or have any taxes.
Right.
We have a shared relationship with our government. We give them a little power in order for them to protect us. So we should pay taxes. I agree. I just don't think they should be higher than what they are now.
Okay, Will?
So you talked about cutting spending just to eliminate the debt, right? So
Yes.
how do you feel about the payroll tax?
The payroll tax, be a little bit more specific.
The upper tax brackets, like after $100,000.
That's their money.
What do you mean?
When
You don't have to pay into the payroll tax if you make like any dollar more than $100,000.
Okay.
Do you think that's okay? Because that would effectively like eliminate. It would make Social Security sustainable for like the foreseeable future if we increased that and just made it for like all tax brackets and like made income over $100,000 taxable.
Well, when it comes to that type of thing, I think the people who aren't necessarily paying into that because they have that much money, those are typically the people who are hiring people. I mean, not in all cases. I'm not going to pretend, but for the most part, those are the business people. You know, the Donald Trumps, the Charles Schwabs. Those are the people who are making that money. And no, when it comes to payroll tax in that sense, I don't think it should be raised now.
So you think it's fine that people like Donald Trump are paying less into the payroll tax as a percentage of their total income? Okay.
Anything else anyone wants to say on that matter?
Final
point? Quickly, give me like 10 seconds. 10-second final conclusion here.
I'm just going to say that I think when it comes to that, it's their money. They've earned it. They're the ones hiring people. Again, not in all cases. Paris Hilton certainly not. But her parents certainly are.
Okay.
So that's just
it's their money.
It's their money.
They do what they want with it.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
So
Okay. Will, quick 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Do you want to return to the Gilded Age? Do you think people were having fun with Rockefeller and Carnegie and J.P. Morgan back in the 1920s?
The 1920s were the Roaring 20s.
The Gilded Age, the period of the most economic disparities and the
Depression,
class.
you mean?
No.
Prior to
he's talking about the
area. The working class was suffering from horrible working conditions.
Like post-industrial revolution, lack of labor laws.
Yeah, exactly.
Type.
It's so different nowadays. You're comparing apples and oranges.
Well,
no, you are.
The wealth disparity is factually worse than it was back then. The top 1% owns 40% of all economic wealth.
Yeah, no, you're correct.
40%, is that okay? 40%, 1%, 40%? Do you
Okay.
think that should be different? Maybe
I-
a little more like fairly distributed. Like sure, it can be on a curve,
Oh, I
but
hate
like
that word.
seriously, 1% and 40%—that's a little extreme.
I frankly don't care.
Okay. All right.
Because
That's fair.
I'm not. It's just not like my final point. That sounds a little harsh, but I think that yes, while there needs to be regulation in the workplace, which there was quite certainly less of in the Gilded Age, I think it's a problem when we're catering to the whims of these people who are protesting outside. Wanting minimum wage that is $15 an hour. It's ludicrous. Maybe if people took advantage of the educational opportunities they had, they could make a better living. The difference being that people back then did not have the means that they do today to get into a 4-year university, and
So
that's a fact.
You're like a fan of like the Protestant work ethic, like you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. How do you feel about capital gains taxes?
Again, what do you mean?
Do you not know what they are, or do you need to clarify what he means by it?
I want to know what. Yeah.
Wealthy
The
people, by liquidating their assets, they pay a lower tax rate on that than they would on their regular income tax.
I mean, it's okay. That's a little bit different. I could see where you would consider raising taxes on that. That would be something that you were talking about.
You would consider like coupling that in a package with.
Yeah, that's
Because wealthy people make most of their income off of capital gains.
exactly.
Right.
Well, so
it's like you have money.
But
you
I
don't make money.
I hate the assumption that people take when it comes to wealthy people that they got it from mommy and daddy.
Well, that's a lot. Old money is.
That's
like
well.
a
You
huge
also say
component,
again, trying not to interject myself too much, but then that's somewhat like saying the assumption that some people have that people who are benefiting from social safety net programs are like people on the side of the street not working at all.
Oh no, exactly.
It's a two-way street, to be fair.
But the thing is, and I do agree.
Yeah.
But the difference being that Mitt Romney, for instance, was vilified as some rich vulture. Which was so wrong. He's smart. He's a very intelligent man when it comes to his finances. The reason he only had to pay 14% in taxes is because he used investments,
Right.
which brought it down. That's a smart way to do it. And if you're not smart enough to do that, I apologize, but that's not our fault.
Will, do you have anything to say? Because I actually want to ask you a question about that. If you don't mind. Do you have anything to say in
No,
response
I'm
to that? Alright. Also, real quick, it's worth pointing out, we're going to do 3 different videos on these topics. This is going on pretty long. I like the way it's going. It's getting kind of heated. So we're just going to end this video after I get a few more points out. But yeah. Alright. So you said, again, this is going to be me somewhat interjecting my own opinion here, so I apologize. But you said that people who take advantage of these tax cuts, not tax cuts, by limiting the amount of taxes they pay by using capital gains. Like they're utilizing a loophole to an extent. Not a loophole, but
It's not a loophole at all.
Well, they're being smart. They're being smart.
Perfect.
So the person who
They know how to use the system to their
the
advantage.
person who lives off Social Security, what are they doing? Using the system to their advantage?
Well, yeah, I haven't discussed Social Security.
Right. No, I'm not talking about Social Security specifically.
I have
I'm
no
s-
problem with
right,
Social Security, besides the fact that
right.
it's our government in a ditch.
Okay, let me talk, please. Anyway, so I'm just saying the people who are in the bottom percent of our wealth, below the poverty line people, who benefit extremely off of food stamps and social safety net programs. Why is it so villainous of them to be utilizing that asset of the government when rich people taking advantage of the tax system in a smart way is just being a good economist?
Okay, there's a very stark difference.
How? I want you to explain to me, because they're both taking money that could be given to our government. The government is losing money based on how they avoid taxes, and they're putting money into the people who.
It's a difference between takers. In other words, there
Is
and let's clarify.
You're saying
No. Excuse me.
Yes.
Let's clarify. First, I think it's actually a little crazy to say that everyone who is on Medicare, Medicaid is some just they're at the bottom, and they are financially, but they've just hit a rough patch. They need this now.
Right.
For some, that's true, but there are also many people who simply don't want to have a job.
Mhm.
That's a fact, and I don't know if that was facetious or not, but it's true.
that's true.
And there are people who simply want to do that because they don't want to work. And I'm not, some communist saying you need to work for the state. I'm just saying that I think it's, reasonable for you to, instead of feeding off the government, you can help your country out a lot by just financially, just by simply getting a job. And that would really lessen the amount of Medicaid going out.
Yes.
There's a difference. Whereas these people who aren't giving their money in, they've earned that.
True.
Some of these people,
Not
they
all of
haven't
them.
earned their Medicaid.
Not every person who has been from the tax code necessarily. I said again because it's not everyone's getting it from daddy, but there are people who are just as there are.
No, exactly. No, that's fair. But I would argue far less.
So do you think it's fair that well, you're saying that rich people are smart because they're using capital gains as a way of making more money. That's fine. But do you think it's fair that they can do that when the working class can't? Because they're living day to day. They don't invest. The working class, middle class, they barely invest. They don't make any money off capital gains, which is why they pay more of their income as taxes. So what do you think about that?
Well, I don't. Again, it's different because I think a lot of the middle class. There's so many units within that term, but the middle class, the very rigid middle class, the rough background, etc. They're the type who I think should strive to do get promotions in their job. They should.
Okay.
If you do your job well, in my opinion, the pay will reflect that. You don't have to be Mr. Donald Trump, the entrepreneur. You don't have to be that type of person to do well for yourself and to support your family. My father, for instance, didn't go to college. However, he realized I gotta have a job. So he went out, he got basic training. He has a job that pays, decent money now and can support both me and help out my mother as well to pay the bills. So, I would honestly argue that a big problem with the flaw between both, and let's go back to taxes a little bit, the flaw being is these people certainly, I don't think they need to pay taxes or get their tax rates raised just because to support those types of people who I referred to earlier. And again, that's not everyone in the Medicaid system. I think we should support, those very poor who they need help because they're down on their luck.
I can see that. So would you be in favor of maybe lowering income tax for the rich but increasing capital gains? Because does it make sense to you that capital
It balances out. No, it balances out. I agree.
Does it make sense to you that the capital gains tax would be lower than income tax when for capital gains, when you make money off of liquidating an asset, it's not like you're actually working. You're just investing your money.
Well, I feel like this debate has honestly been clouded around the fact that we're pigeonholing ourselves in a sense of just talking about the rich people, and that's such a stupid argument. It's something that Obama fooled us about in 2012, frankly. But I think we should be focusing on cutting taxes for that rough middle class, the very center, the heart of our country. And I think that's fair. And what you just said, that's fair. It balances out. It's not creating.
So
it's bringing in revenue while at the same time it's not creating more debt for our country.
So reduce income tax, raise capital gains tax.
Yes.
That makes sense to you?
Again, I'm not Grover Norquist. I'm not going to say no tax raises ever.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very fair compromise, and that's what our government should be all about.
That note. Good note. Ran on a compromise. All right, where's my camera? I can't see it. I'll have to log in back to frickin' stop the camera. That's awesome. Okay. That was actually a really good conversation. Hi. We're going to upload more in a little bit. You ready?